We might as well record it. Dan might even put it in the podcast. You never know.
My review of this film is if you want to watch the same thing happen over and over again, like Groundhog Day, watch this film. Because that's literally all this has been.
What do you mean?
She turned up, she got herself into a bad situation, he got her out of it, he then locks her in some sort of situation, car, handcuff, something, she gets herself out. She gets caught by the bad guys. He has to save the day. Guaranteed after the end of the scene, he probably locks her in a car again.
No, I think it's nearly over.
I don't like it. It's the same. It's been the same thing over and over again for the last hour and a half. I'm so bored.
Wow.
Hello and welcome to Rewind Reviews, and let's start with the obvious. Jess is right.
She did not enjoy this movie, and it was because there's been a lot of usually with a movie like this, I wouldn't make her sit through it.
No,
but it was.
I was surprised you'd made that choice. To be honest with you, I didn't put Nadia through this. I could assure you.
Yeah, well, it was 8:30, and she was like, "What do you want to watch now?" And I was just kind of like, I was doing the maths basically, and it was just kind of like, if we watch something that's an hour, I don't stop or Mum will shoot until 9:30, which means I'm not done till 11, which means by the time I've pissed about, I'm not in bed till 12:30, 1. Yeah. So I made the call to do it, and she did not enjoy this movie.
No. Well, you got to keep in mind, for me, it takes me, so it's an hour, and the movie's like an hour and a half or something, an hour and 45. Can't remember exactly, but it's whatever. An hour and a half, I think. For me, that's 2 hours because I'm pausing to take notes occasionally. So any movie we watch for this takes me about half an hour to 45 minutes longer to watch than the time. So it is painful sometimes, and this was one of those examples. And I will say, I did a voice note back. I had to be a bit hushed because people were asleep, but in my voice note back to your voice note, which we played at the beginning of this podcast, we should clarify what the context of that was, sorry. That's a voice note I got from Chris as he was watching the movie, heading into the third act, it sounded like, or towards the end of the third act. But my reply was to say, yes, she's bang on, Jess is correct. She's smart that way. She has identified one of the bigger problems with the movie very quickly. But I think as well, I was just a bit the tone of your voice note is not taking responsibility for your choices. You were talking about it like either I or the universe was forcing this upon you, and I had to remind you in my reply, you chose this movie, Chris. So, for those who haven't noticed by the title, for the 6 of you listening to this one, because I can't imagine who's listening to a review of Stop My Mum Will Stop My Mum Will Shirt, in the year of our Lord 2024. Who's watching this movie in this year? I don't know, or watching a review of it. But if you are here for that, I mean, for the 6 of you that are here, I want to make it very clear. Chris chose this. This was his fault. So, are we taking responsibility?
We've all done. We've all chosen things, Dan. You know what I mean? I think you've got Joe's apartment. You've got the Way of Water under your belt.
No, I didn't choose the Way of Water.
Did you not?
No, you did, and I was really fucking mad about it.
Oh, did I choose it just to wind you up then?
No, you chose it because you were choosing one you could watch with Jess, and she'd said she'd watch it. You gave her the list. Yeah.
Well, there you go then. You chose Joe's apartment. She chose the Way of Water. I won't take shit off anyway.
No, excuse me. I chose Joe's apartment as part of our old idea that we always used to start the series with a really bad movie.
Yes, and I am continuing this series with a really bad movie. Jack was a masterpiece, so I had to put in Stop or My Mum Will Shoot.
To be fair, I mean, normally at this point I'd go, look, I can't talk Small Soldiers, but honestly, Chris, I'd watch Small Soldiers 5 more times before I watch this again.
I would probably watch this over Small Soldiers, but that doesn't mean it's a good movie. It's not a good movie.
Because the problem
it is.
Well, I was just going to say, I'll tell you the problem with this movie, Chris. It's not even the fun kind of bad. That's the biggest issue with this movie. It's a bad movie,
right.
and it's not even the sort of bad that you like. It's super cheesy and weird, and you're laughing at it for the wrong reasons. It doesn't even cross into that territory. This is the absolute worst kind of bad. It's like boring, doesn't have anything to say. No one goes on a proper journey. It thinks it's being funny, and it's funny.
Yeah,
I'll tell you right now, I laughed twice, and we'll talk about the 2 moments I laughed.
You said this in your voice note, which brings me to my headline point. I think on this movie,
Yeah, go on.
And we'll do history and then get deeper headlines. But like headline sentence, and just to clarify, given what I'm about to say, the reason I choose to watch this again over Small Soldiers is because this is a bad movie in at least a genre that I would gravitate to, more than the Small Soldiers. I don't really know what genre Small Soldiers is meant to be, but anyway.
Well, no, to be fair, Small Soldiers doesn't know what genre Small Soldiers is supposed to be. So.
Yeah. See our review of Small Soldiers for more on that. Here's my headline sentence.
Yep.
I don't think this is the worst movie we've ever reviewed on here, but
Not far.
I do think it is probably the most unforgettable movie, and the reason
When you
that
say
is linked to
unforgettable, do you mean forgettable?
the most forgettable, yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because we sent you that voice note. Maybe it wasn't towards the end, but I listened to your reply after the movie had finished. We finished watching the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I know I laughed a few times throughout the movie, probably more than twice, probably no more than, but I gave it some, that happened. I'll admit that. And you say, I laughed twice, I'll let you guess where. And I genuinely couldn't remember a single fucking joke in the movie. I could barely remember the movie as the credits for the movie were quite literally rolling in front of our eyes. So and then this morning, I wake up and I'm like, oh yeah, Stop or My Mum Will Shoot later. What the fuck happened in that movie? I genuinely was like, I don't fucking remember anything about that movie. I'd have to look at the list. My instinct is it's not the worst. It's certainly not the least I've enjoyed a movie personally, but it's definitely the most forgettable.
Yeah, I mean, but that's almost the bigger crime. Because like something like All About Steve, which is a terrible, terrible movie. No, yeah, it was All About Steve. Yeah. But at least there's something interesting to discuss in that movie. Like, I remember it. And like, again, Avatar, Way of the Water, it's a terrible, terrible movie. I hated that movie. I hated that movie so much. But at least there's artistry on screen. There's like, people worked really hard to make that movie look good, and the actors are giving good performances, and like, this is up there. This is really high up there. This is like this is at least in the top 3 worst films we've done on this podcast. I think it's up there with Jack, maybe over Jack. I think I'd watch Jack again before I'd watch this, to be honest with you.
I'd watch Jack again. I think.
Rent-A-Kid, I'd watch over this.
Yeah, I'm just looking. See, my instinct would be Avatar: Way of Water, but you are right; it is discussion worthy. But I would absolutely watch this over Way of Water.
Yeah, and then like, what was it? Rent-A-Kid, I thought was at least kind of the funny kind of bad. Like that was kind of entertaining for that was the good side of being bad. I think. I really can't think of anything else, and I'm looking at this myself, and I genuinely, this might be the worst movie we've done. Joe's Apartment's pretty close. That's a dreadful movie. But again, it's noteworthy. I remember it. Like, I know, admittedly, that was my choice because I watched it as a kid, so I remember it for the reasons that I remember it. But, like, some of the insane stuff that happens in that movie, like, I think probably is even stuck in your head. You know what I mean? Like, that. So, yeah, I just don't know. I'm struggling to find something.
Are you? Because, yeah, I see your point, but there's a few movies. I think I would rather watch this over Way of Water. I'd rather watch this over Crimes of Grindelwald.
Well, it depends on the criteria as well. Because if it's just right now, would I rather watch this over? Yeah, because it's shorter. I'd watch this over Avatar 2. Like that, automatically it wins on that front. So I think that's a different question to is it the worst movie we've covered? I think that's two different criteria. If it is the worst movie we covered, it's certainly in the top couple. Put it that way. I don't think it might not be the very top one, but having a skim back through the list, this is pretty close. I'd certainly watch the Flintstones again over this.
If I have to judge it objectively, then yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone can hear it. There's a fly in this room, and it's a really small room, and it keeps buzzing around the mic. So apologies if I don't know what to do about that. I don't know if I
just let it happen, man.
Just gotta let it happen. Yeah, why not? The movie's such a stinker. There's a fly buzzing around it. That's fine. So let's talk about the movie. So first of all, in terms of history with the movie, my history with this movie is I accidentally taped it years ago when I was a kid, because what I used to do is put the old VHS on long play to record stuff that I wasn't going to be around to directly hit record on. So like if there was something I wanted to watch in the evening, the fly just landed on my face. Like this is the worst. 1 second. I nearly got it. He's just landed on the mic. This is the most obnoxious fly. I nearly got him again. Chris, this fly really wants. This is my this is my mouse hunt. This is my
another movie you didn't enjoy.
Yeah, didn't care for Mouse Hunt. That's true. I'd still watch that over this though. So my history of this movie is that what I used to do is I used to tape something. So if I was leaving the house at like 4 or 5 o'clock because my parents were dragging me out something, and there's something on TV at 6, 7, I would just put the tape in, hit record on long play. You get 6, 7 hours out of that. So it would record whatever nonsense was on before the thing I wanted, and the thing I wanted would be somewhere in the middle. And then sometimes it would record something after as well if it just was running and beyond when I that back. So I discovered a few things this way. I'm pretty sure that's how I discovered Quick Change. I think we talked about that in the episode. Yeah, that might be how I discovered Quick Change. But this is one of those movies where, like, I watched the thing that I was looking for, and then this started, and I was like, what's this? And, it's certainly an intriguing title, And I remember just watching it all as a kid and just thinking, like, yeah, that was, like, fun and light. And, like, I just, an hour and a half, I probably was, I don't know, playing with my toys while I watched it. Like, I don't think this was a movie I was, like, glued to the screen for, but I had it on the VHS, and I kept it, and I watched it maybe another time or two throughout my youth. So I enjoyed it well enough. I don't think it was a favourite. This isn't a movie I, deeply loved or anything like that. But I enjoyed it enough as a child because I think, like, the baseline for being entertaining is different for a child than an adult. So yeah, that's my history with it. I mean, you chose the film, so I assumed you had maybe more history with the film, but maybe not. Maybe yours is just similar to mine, where you saw it and just thought it was goofy fun, and you wanted to see if that was still the case.
Yeah, it's literally the same. Down to there was a tape of it, a recorded tape of it. We didn't own the VHS. Whether accidentally recorded or not, I don't know. And I think it was a film that, like, you would just occasionally, in my memory, it would be on a random Sunday afternoon on ITV, which, watching it, I'm like, maybe not. But then I suppose, actually, it's not particularly violent. Like, there's some shootouts, but nothing horrendous. There's no blood, there's no gore. Or it might be that, like I say, we had it taped. And I seem to remember it had a label on with a child's handwriting saying, "Stop or my mum will shoot."
Yeah.
But yeah, so I doubt it's still. I think those tapes are still somewhere at my mum and dad's, but I think a lot of them don't have what the label says on them. Potentially including.
Mate, I was absolutely obsessive about the labels. I made my parents buy like a book full of replacement labels, so if a tape got taped over, I could replace it. And I used to always format it. If there were multiple things on it, I would write each thing and I'd put them in the order they're on the tape. So if I had been recording, I don't know, like whatever I'd recorded before it, some other film or TV show, I'd write the name of that. And if it caught Stop My Mom Will Shoot, I was like, I'm going to keep that. I would then do a slash and then write Stop My Mom Will Shoot. So I knew that the movies were what was on the tapes. And if that ever changed, because I taped over something, I would then adjust the label. I was obsessive about the labels because I had so many. I had dozens and dozens and dozens of these tapes. So it was the only way I could keep track of it.
And it's just like, I think it's a psychological thing, isn't it? Actually, because I or like a personality trait thing, because I would just remember like the wrong label. So I'd be like, oh, that label that says Power. A lot of the time, unfortunately, it was Power Rangers. Bless them. So I'd be like, oh, that's Power Rangers on a blue label. That's actually Only Fools and Horses. Like, do you know what I mean? I would do it that way. So yeah, and I have a similar. The reason I say maybe it's like a personality trait thing is because I don't file my emails much to people's bamboozlement. But I'm always like, no, if I need to find an email, I'm good at searching. Like, I remember what the contents are enough that I'll be able to find and pull up an email. But I have faith that I'll be able to pull up an email pretty quickly by just knowing what to search. And it's a similar thing. Although, weirdly, my desktop, very, very sort of organised into folders. Well, actually, no, I say that. That's a lie. My desktop, it looks neat, but, like, often not. I'm keeping this one up to good date, but I've had machines in the past that have had, like, desktop, and you go in desktop, and in there's a folder called desktop June, and you go in that, and there's a folder called desktop to sort, and you go in that, and there's, like, desktop 2019. Like, do you know what I mean? Like... But but it looks neat though. I don't have a lot of files.
I think half my computer files are very, very well organized, and it's all the stuff for the podcast. So like I've got folders and subfolders with each podcast, and then inside of each of those, it's like there's the thumbnails, there's the audio files that are raw, there's the mixdowns, there's the final product. Like I've got like a workflow, like an order. But in my first, I want to quickly add, actually, this is a bad movie. We don't want to talk about it. We've talked about everything but this movie. But yeah, those folders are all really good. But then my like more personal stuff, which is just stuff I've downloaded for myself, chaos, absolute chaos. Like any files I have that are just mine, like madness. But anything to do with like either my writing or my podcasting is all very well organized. Obsessively so. Anyway, look, let's rip the Band-Aid off. Not recommend. It's a dreadful movie. I think there are some funny premises. The fly just keeps landing on the microphone, which is actually the worst part of this. I'm so sorry, everyone.
I think I heard it that time. I think I heard that.
Yeah, it's really, really, really huge, this fly. It's a very small room, so it's like keeps coming back. Like there's not a lot of places for it to go. Anyway, so there are some funny premises at work here, but none of them are executed well. It's repetitive. It doesn't have anything to say about anything. The action doesn't work. The comedy mostly doesn't work. The story and character work is poor. And it's shot in the blandest possible way a movie can be shot. Every time there's a scene, it was just like, where do we put the camera that's the most generic place to put the camera? How do we light it? The blandest, most 90th way we can. 90s way we can. Just dead on. We're color like there's nothing creative about this movie. It is the most by the numbers movie we've done in quite some time. Like I don't remember the last time I watched a movie that was like this unoriginal, this sort of uninspired. Okay, now it keeps landing on me. 1 second, it's landed. Can I get it? It's on the mic. I'm gonna try and... Did I get it? No, it's still flying around. This is silly now. I just want you to go away, fly. Yeah, it's a bad movie. It's a really bad movie. Overall thoughts, absolutely don't recommend this. No one should put themselves through this. I'm annoyed I had to. It's real low on the list. I don't know. What your headline thoughts different?
You weren't like, when I chose it, I don't know if you'd have chosen it, but you weren't like, that is definitely good. Like, you were excited to watch it. It's only,
Yeah, because I thought it might be because I thought it might be the kind of bad film that was bad enough to be interesting, and it's just it's not even that. And that's the most disappointing element of this. It's not even bad enough to make fun of. I don't even have point. I can't even like poke at it and go, "Isn't that silly?" It's not like The Room. Where the movie is... Oh, and by the way, every now and then people ask about The Room. We're never covering The Room on this podcast. Full stop. Not doing it. It's not happening. Stop asking.
Why are we not covering The Room?
Well, first of all, it's not a film from my youth, and I know we've cheated on that a few times, but I watched that in adult life. But also, the trivia. It's no. There's books and books and theses, about that movie. And also everything that's ever could be said about that movie has been said about that movie. There's nothing left to say on the internet about The Room. It is maybe one of the most discussed movies of all time. I have nothing to add to that conversation, and the trivia scares me. So yeah, I'm never choosing The Room. It's not happening. Please stop asking.
Step up, Billingham. No.
Yeah, I mean, look. There's the rules work that way. If you want to be that guy, you could be that guy.
Nah, I've never seen it. Like, never watched it.
I've been to screenings of that room, the ones where everyone quotes and throws the spoons. I have a soft spot for the movie in that sense, but I just don't want to cover it on this podcast. I just don't think I have anything to add to the conversation about that movie.
I feel, and look. If I'm bang on here, tell me I'm bang on. If I'm wrong, then I'll just pretend I'm doing a bit. But I think you view The Room slightly how some people out there view Kings of Leon. Like some people that were big fat. Some people were huge fans of Kings of Leon, and then they became really popular and really discussed, and they hold a bit of resentment for that, and they're a bit like, oh, they're different now, they're popular. And I remember you like explaining The Room to me, and I think you quite liked, this little this weird thing, but fairly underground. Even like the showings of it were fairly there were people like me that didn't really know what The Room was, and it's got more popular, it's got more mainstream. They made The Disaster Artist, and yeah, that's my theory. You're a bit old school when it comes to The Room.
I disagree, because I still would go to a screening of The Room like tomorrow. I still think the film is extremely fun and want to take part in all of that stuff. My point is, it's this podcast. It's a no, because I have nothing to say about that movie that hasn't already been said, and I am terrified of doing the trivia, because it is one of the most complicated stories of any movie that's maybe ever been made, in terms of there have been so much written about it, so many questions still to be answered, so many books and things written about that movie, that breaking that down in any way, shape or form would be almost impossible, I think.
Dan, we've got nothing to say about this movie. And here we are.
Yeah, but I mean, that was an accident. Do you know what I mean? I know that we'd have nothing to say about The Room, so it's like, you know what I mean? Like, why would we do it on purpose?
Yeah, and we also couldn't this podcast isn't Mystery Science Theatre or other shows and podcasts like that.
Yeah,
so
we're not here to just crack funny about it. Like, we do that, but it's not what we do.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, what we do isn't watching something and then ribbing on it. Like, is it Toasted? Is that channel Toasted?
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
They like roast Double Toasted or something like that. They like roast bad movies and stuff like that. I think they've done this one actually. I haven't listened to it, but
well, anyway,
done this one.
Let's get into this nonsense. All right. So it's Sylvester Stallone playing Boring McBoringface, Joe Boring, Joe Everyman, Joe lead character, and his mum, Tootie, generic mum. She comes to town, and he's a cop, a rough, tough cop. And she's just getting in the way because she's embarrassing him, and she keeps following into all of his cop stuff and getting mixed up in his cop story, because there's a subplot where she ruins his gun, so she then goes out to buy him a replacement. Doesn't like that she'd have to wait the 2 weeks waiting period, and decides to get them on the black market, which gets her involved in an actual crime, and then it's a whole thing after that. It's a sequence. It's a series of, she follows him to a place. He gets mad at her. He prevents her from being able to follow him via handcuffs, locking her in the car, locking her in the house, whatever he does. And then she gets out and comes and follows him, as Jess pointed out in the voice note. And then we just have a series of very restricted, quite boring action sequences that don't really do anything. It's got the one joke, which is that she's embarrassing, and it really likes that joke. So that's the sort of the plot synopsis. Oh, there's a love story. He's because the quote unquote character story is that he's well, at first you think it's that he's too obsessive about his mum and he wouldn't call his girlfriend, but actually the movie then kind of reveals that it's that he's not willing to admit his feelings about things because he's too rough and tough. And then at the end of the movie, he's telling people how he feels about them, including the love interest. Yeah, real flat. I don't know what I genuinely don't know what to say about this movie. Like, what else do you add to that? It's so bad. Go on. You must have thoughts, Chris.
I spent a fair bit of time being like, there's a lot of people from the West Wing in this movie. And then I looked at it, and there's only really two.
Yes.
That's obviously Toby and the British guy, the main villain in this.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are some funny bad moments. Like, did you notice how, like, bearing in mind, like, dude's a cop, right? And like at one point, he goes in his drawer and he's got no paperwork. He's just got a bottle of booze. That's it. That's mad. It's really difficult. And that's what I mean. Like, truly, and like maybe we just make this like comically short, and it's the only. I'm really sorry. It's a really hard because I think if we did do that format of going beat by beat and laughing at it, we could get a lot from that. But because our format is like trying to one way or the other genuinely review it.
I don't think we could, Chris. What are we getting out of it? I'm not, like I said, we're not Mystery Science Theatre. I'm not cracking wires. It's not my. I mean, we'll make occasional. God, this fly.
That's what I'm saying. Because
the fly is more interesting than this movie, and also
because
the
we
fact
don't
that the
do
fly
that,
is
it
turning
makes
this
it
into a
even
shit show of a podcast. I think it really suits the movie we're covering.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go. I think Stallone's all right in it.
No, he's not. No, he's not. No, he's not. Come on, be serious, Chris. Be serious. You don't think that. You can't think that. You cannot think that.
I haven't seen him in many things.
This guy. This is Rocky, man. This is.
Let's talk. I can deep dive on the love story. It's a really bad love story.
Yeah, please. Do.
So part of the problem is it's a 90. Is it 92? 1992?
1992, exactly.
1992. So the film starts. It's 1992, and there is a female chief of police, and I'm like, sweet, okay, that is progressive. This is a compliment. So far, this movie's not been wowing me, but this is something I can get on board with and I can latch onto because we've just had Stallone needlessly fucking blow his gun, which wouldn't be smoking like that. We've just had that cheese, and now we've got a female chief of police, and that is, for a movie made in 1992, I was like, that's bold, cool. And then one of the first things out of her mouth is complaining to Stallone's character because he didn't call her and let her and speak to her the night before. And you're like, oh no,
like the put upon wife from a 90s sitcom. Yeah. Like Al Bundy's about to come in the room and he's the real partner.
Yep, even though they're not even married, and it is just the most stereotypical bullshit you've ever seen in your life, and you're like, oh no. They're just not convincingly in love. Maybe the scene like where he tells her how he feels is sweet. Maybe
no, it's not. No, it's not. It's weird. It's weird and creepy. Come on, Chris. He copies the words his mother used, and she's like, that's the sweetest thing anyone said to me. And he goes, oh, my mother told me to say that. And she's like, oh, that's okay.
I laughed at that. I thought that was funny. I laughed at that. It's not the creepiest thing in the movie, Dan. The creepiest thing in the movie is, you looked sexy in diapers.
Yes,
that's a line.
I wrote that down. It's my third note from this movie.
That's a line that a woman says to a grown man about photos of him as a baby.
Yep.
That happens in this, and that happens quite
I'm
early
surprised
on in
that
the movie.
Stallone didn't reply, I need an adult. Stranger danger.
The other weird...
That lady should be on a list.
That's the weird thing. The weird thing, just going back to the love story, the weird thing about it is it sort of wraps up really early, and then there's a scene where... And then he goes to get his mum back, and you're like, okay, so this is the arc. Like he forgives his mum, and that's good. And then they immediately fall out again. You're just like, oh, for fuck's sake!
Oh, I could think of something good from the movie from that scene, though. Carry on, but I want to talk about something from that scene.
No, you go.
In that scene where he makes up with his mother, which is towards the end of the movie, she goes to the airport. She's like, "You're right. I've spoiled your life. I've made things worse. I'm going to go." And he's like, "No, Mom. I love you, Mom." And he follows her and mumbles along. When he catches up to her, and he's doing his best 16-year-old boy impression, but he's a 45-year-old man. Whatever his head thinks a 15-year-old boy it should be. The whole time they're having the conversation, the guy that was driving the cart that she was on is framed between them and reacting. And let me tell you, that guy is acting his ass off, and it's the funniest thing. I don't count this as one of my 2 funniest moments of the movie, or moments that made me laugh in the movie, because it's not supposed to be funny at all. It's an accident, but it's amazing. If you have any way to watch that scene, Chris, again, do.
Yeah, I'm just seeing if
because
I can bring it up.
He's like nodding and he's like eyebrow acting and he's like he is in the scene without being any part of the scene whatsoever. It's the funniest thing. He's just because it's just the way they framed it, because they didn't think about it for a second. All you'd had to have done is angle the camera like maybe 90 degrees to the side, get a nice side-on shot where you get sort of the side of her face and full of his, and then go the other angle and you can flip between the two. Sort of an over-the-shoulder shot, maybe either way, but maybe slightly more angled towards. You wouldn't have had him so prominently in the frame. But because it's boringly shot, it's dead on, and it's her face, his face, and then right between them, this random airport employee that's clearly listening to the conversation and reacting to it. It's incredible.
That sounds amazing. I've got it. I'm just bringing it up.
It is absolutely mad. So yeah, but very quickly on the point you were making about being impressed with having the lady as the female police chief. One thing I will say to the movie's credit is Stallone is in his mid-40s. This lady is in her mid-40s. This is an age-appropriate love story in a Hollywood movie. And I just want to take a second to...
Yeah.
Because, let me tell you, if this movie was made by anyone else at any other time, she'd have been 25. 30 at best. Stallone, 45-year-old man with a 25-year-old lady. They chose an age-appropriate woman, which I just give, again, I just respect that choice, not doing the usual Hollywood thing of having the guy being in his 40s and then giving him a love interest that's way, way younger than him and creepy. So good point. Good. That's 1 point. Good work.
I'm just trying to find. Just in trying to find this scene, I have uncovered the scene. I think this made me laugh, if memory serves. Oh, here you go. I found it. Let me just pause it while I make this point, and then I'll watch this scene. The fact that the guy, I don't like the weird way he ends up handcuffing them together, but that guy's willingness. You know what I mean? The bearded guy, when they catch him. I think I remember finding that funny. I think. Right, hold on. I've got the scene here. It's the fact that in some of the scenes you just see like his eyes reacting and stuff.
It's so good.
Oh,
that actor had
He's back. He's
that,
turning around. He's having another look.
That actor went home. That's better than when you watch it. That actor went home and told his entire family he did a scene with Sylvester Stallone.
He's nodded. It's the fact that at one point he looks away and then he looks back again. Oh, and now they're now falling out. So how's he gonna handle this? Right, he's looked away. I really hope he looks back again, all indignant. Come on, man. Come on. Oh, Stallone's talking to him now.
That's a good moment. I love that moment. Anyway,
that is a good moment.
You did mention Richard Schiff. Richard Schiff's in this movie. That's a good point. That's a thing I liked. I like seeing Richard Schiff. Toby from thingy. What's his name? Toby Ziegler from West Wing.
Okay, so you don't think Stallone's good in this movie?
No.
What about I'm not sure of her name, but I know I think she's from the Golden Girls.
She is from the
I
Golden Girls.
don't
Yes,
remember
Estelle Getty, who plays Tootie.
Estelle
Yes.
Getty. What do you think of Estelle?
She's doing good. I mean, she's playing to her usual thing, which is being a sort of sweet old lady, which is just was always her vibe. But I think some actors just have a thing they're very good at, and there's nothing wrong with them sticking to that. Nothing wrong with that at all. That's their choice. You know, whether they want to challenge themselves to do a completely different role every movie, or whether they like have a thing they really like doing and they're like exploring that tone, that character, or versions of that character. That's absolutely fine, performance-wise. No criticisms of that at all. She's very good at that. No problems with Estelle Getty. I mean, she's not got very good material to work with, but that's because this is maybe one of the worst scripts we've had on this podcast. Maybe not the worst, but it's pretty poor. But like she's doing her best. I also Jo Beth Williams, who plays Gwen, the love interest, she's good in this. The various like mobsters and bad guys and like the other police officer that they don't like. You know, they're all fine. They're very passable. It's mostly a passable cast, with the exceptions of Estelle Getty and Jo Beth Williams, who really elevate it. And of course, I mean, we'd already talked about Richard Schiff, but he's only in one scene, I think. So let's,
Yeah,
I don't think
he's
really
in like 30 seconds of the movie.
Yeah,
It's just because it's Richard Schiff.
Yeah, he's literally at the very bottom of the credits on IMDb. He's the last name, and the character was just called Gun Clerk. So I don't think we're counting that. But of the primary cast, everyone's passable. Except for Stallone. Oh my, he's an Oscar-nominated actor, Chris. Oscar-nominated.
Well, let's talk about it now, because I believe you said there's an amazing piece of triv, and I was like, I don't think I know that. And then as I'm watching the movie, and Jess is like, I can't believe that's Stallone, I suddenly remembered, I think, the triv. And let's just let's just talk about this piece of triv now, because we're talking about Stallone being in this movie.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that essentially, I assume this is what you were referring to, Arnold Schwarzenegger created a scenario where he almost essentially tricked Stallone into being in this movie? Is that correct?
That is correct. So, I mean, there is almost no trivia at all. So I was definitely going to save this for triv just because there's nothing else. But it's okay. But basically, both Stallone and Schwarzenegger have verified this story over the years. Slight differences, but nothing that would take away the key point of this story. Basically, Stallone's version of events is that they're big rivals. They'd done a lot of movies together, similar movies that come out together, and that they'd been like, who can kill the most guys in their movie? Who can be the toughest? Who can do the best this, the best that? And Schwarzenegger had just done a couple of comedies. He'd done Twins, and he'd done
Kindergarten
Cop. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, Kindergarten Cop was a couple of years before, and Twins had been... Kindergarten Cop was like 1 year before, and Twins was like 2-3 years before, like late 80s. And so he was still in that comedy.
Can I just say, Dan, here's something that will make you kick yourself. I nearly chose Kindergarten Cop instead of this.
That would have been a great one. I love Kindergarten Cop. It's not a tumor. Anyway, it's not... That's the part of that line no one ever does. They always do that. It's not a tumor, but they never do that. He follows it up with a pause, and then, it's not... Like he's just really determined to add. Oh wait, one second. The fly is back and he's landed. Oh, I missed him. That was so close. Damn, that was close. I nearly got him that time. Disaster. He's still around. Anyway, so basically what happens is Stallone and Schwarzenegger have been sort of rivals very much across what films they were doing and what was happening in their movies and box office and all that stuff. And basically, Arnold Schwarzenegger was the first choice for this movie. They gave him the script, and he thought it was the worst script he'd ever read. So he made sure his people put it around that he was doing the movie and couldn't wait to do the movie and really wanted to do the movie. And he made sure that Stallone found this out. So then Stallone goes, well, if he wants to do the movie, I want to do the movie. Why aren't my people getting me in for this movie? If Schwarzenegger wants to do it, I should do it. So Stallone reaches out to be in this movie. He called his agent and campaigned for this movie. And it was only later on that he found out that Schwarzenegger had completely faked his interest in order to trick him into doing the movie. Stallone has gone on record of saying this is the worst film he's ever made. Which is probably about right, in my opinion. There are a lot of not great Stallone movies out there, but this is easily his worst one. So yeah, there is one of my favorite pieces of movie trivia, maybe of all time. I absolutely love that trivia. It's delightful, the best. Yeah, and then still, so Stallone told that story without really knowing for sure, I guess, a few times that his theory was that Schwarzenegger pretended to be involved, and it was years later on, like Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon, one of the Jimmys, when Schwarzenegger repeated the story. Although he made it sound like Stallone called him and said, "What do you think about the stop motion?" He's like, "Oh no, I'm going to do it," which doesn't really match with Stallone's version of the story, which is that he'd heard through the grapevine, because Schwarzenegger told his people to, make it sound like he was really interested in it. So slight differences, but the ultimate premise is the same. There's another story involving Schwarzenegger and a rivalry that I thought was related to this movie as well, but it's not. Schwarzenegger and Richard Gere have a rivalry related to Schwarzenegger eating a full rotisserie chicken and getting grease in Richard Gere's brand new car.
Nice.
Which just annoyed Richard Gere deeply. He had a nice new car. Or maybe it was the way around. No, it was that way around, because Schwarzenegger definitely eats full rotisserie chickens. Richard Gere does not do that. That's definitely
It
the
is
right.
insane how much of this feels like Vin Diesel and The Rock now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So to get back to the movie, look, I'll just go through some of the notes because I don't know what else to say about this movie. The tone of the intro of this movie gets the closest to what. No, I just to cover some of the notes. I've only got a handful. I'll do from the beginning. Very quick.
No, I'm saying, oh god, the intro is one of the worst intros ever put to film.
Oh, I meant you mean the title. I was talking about the intro scene, the sequence. But yes.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're right. There's a weird animated title card that's just bizarre and out of place tonally from the movie, for sure. Massive weirdness. Do you have anything you want to say on that other than just that it's weird and out of place?
No, it's awful. But I do have a question. No, do your point first, and then there we go. We're stretching shit out. I will save my question.
Okay. The actual intro of the movie, the scene where he's like with his buddy cop, and they're stopping a gang from doing a crime of some sort. They're blowing the smoke out the barrel of the gun after effortlessly taking out the bad guys. Bad banter. All that stuff. It's almost leaning into parody of 90s cop movies. And I think that's actually where this should have been. I think the whole movie should have been a clean, just outright parody of 90s cop movies. Same premise, but it doesn't lean into it because it wants you to think it's a Stallone movie still, but with a comedic element. And if they'd have just gone, okay, we're making fun of 90s cop movies or 80s cop movies, they would have had a much better time of it with this film. I think it would have been a better movie in almost every way. But it's because it treats it so sincerely and it's not doing parody and it never quite goes into parody, that's where it fails itself, in my opinion. I will say the music in the movie is pretty good. I didn't talk about that, but the music's reasonably good. Alan Silvestri comes back. I think he did like Die Hard and stuff. Like it's. I wrote in my notes that the music is probably better than the rest of this movie deserves. But go on. What was your question?
My question is, because this is heralded as a bad movie, and it is talked about a lot as the worst movie in Stallone's catalogue, and really known as a bad movie. I think the title is a big part to do with that. If this was called Mum Cop or something like that, it would still be a bad movie. It wouldn't have done well, but I don't think it would be as sort of maligned. Is that the right word? Maligned? Mm-hmm. As it is if it didn't also have that appalling title sequence and an awful name.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's doomed either way, because I still think like Mom Cop has the same effect in my opinion. Like, because it's just, again, it's like a cheesy weird. Like it's not a funny title to tell you it's a funny movie. It just comes across cheesy, and it's not an awesome action movie title to tell you it's an action movie. It's got the same problem in my opinion. Whatever you call it, because the movie can't pick a lane, neither can the title. So you end up with this weird tonal disparity either way, I think. But maybe, because maybe then people go, oh, it was supposed to be goofy. Maybe. But I mean, what Stop Mom Will Shoot is goofy. You know what I mean? Like, it's so I don't know. Would you like to know the 2 times I laughed in the movie?
Oh, I would love to, yes.
Moment number 1 is the suicide jumper scene.
Oh, really?
When the guy's like... Wait, that's your mum? I thought I had problems. And goes back in and leaves Stallone out on the ledge. And the news reporter is like, there's a man on the ledge. Apparently he's had issues with his mother. I thought that was brilliant. I genuinely laughed at that. I laughed out loud at that. I thought that was very funny. And that's reasonably earlier in the movie. And I remember thinking, oh, maybe there are going to be a couple of guys. I was already like, this is going to be a bad movie. This won't be the fun kind of bad. Because we were already like, 20, 30 minutes in, and maybe at that point. But I did at least go, oh, maybe there'll be some laughter to be had in this premise. You know what I mean? Like, some ideas I like. Because I thought that I did genuinely find that funny. I laughed at that quite a bit. Did you not find that funny?
No, I did find it funny. Yeah, definitely.
But particularly that moment when when the only person left on the ledge is Stallone. Didn't really explain what the scene is, but he goes out on the ledge to talk to a suicide, a person who's trying to commit suicide. He goes out to talk him down, but then his mum, who he left in the car, as is the theme of the movie, he leaves her somewhere, she follows. She shows up, gets hold of a megaphone, and starts embarrassing him and trying to talk the suicide jumper down in his place. And then the suicide jumper's like, geez, that's your mum? Wow, I thought my problems were bad. So then he gives up and gets out, but it just leaves Stallone on the edge. It's very funny. I like that. The second one, and it's only because after the whole movie, I just thought it was so much, but it was also performed quite well, I thought. Right at the end of the movie, Estelle Getty pulls the trigger, takes out the bad guy, blows the smoke out the gun, and says the cheesy line. I did laugh at that. I thought that was... just because I never thought I would see that in my lifetime, and I did. And I'm grateful for the movie for that.
But he just, in the last moment of the movie, just becomes a completely different character.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose it's the end, so fuck it. But yeah, I was just like, oh, come on.
Yeah. Well, and it was after that horrendous, last action sequence, which, like the third act of this movie, right? She gets kidnapped because she escapes his trapping her again and follows him to the airport. The bad guys catch her. They're putting her in the plane because they're going to throw her out the plane. He's like, I gotta save my mom, so I could be mean about her again. Mom, what you doing, Mom? All that stuff. And he gets in a truck, and he just rams into the plane, and then it breaks and it stops. And that's our final action sequence of the movie. And then the bad guys get out and they get caught and or shot. It's cool, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
just a horrible
I think
third act.
I think a really big issue with this movie is and I know it's up top in the voice note. Oh, there you go. There's an extra minute or so on the podcast because of that, Dan.
Well, to be fair, we're already nearly at an hour, so I guess maybe this won't be the shortest we've ever done. For a minute, I was like, if this is 45 minutes, I'll be grateful.
But, we can wrap this up fairly soon. But Jess is absolutely right. That's a genuine... It's an example, as well as... I think there's a lot of things in this movie that are just unfortunately quite bad. But an example of, a genuine, how did you not notice that structurally this was a problem thing, is the fact that literally it repeats itself within 20 minutes, where he literally does do a version of locking her up, either handcuffing her to the sink or locking her in a car, and then she escapes and makes the situation worse, and he has to get her out of it. Mm-hmm. That happens multiple times in the movie.
From memory, I thought about this after Jess said it. I think from memory, there are 5 or 6 versions of that in the movie, depending on what you count. Because the suicide one, I wasn't sure if that counts. Because he tells her, stay in the car. He doesn't lock her in the car. But he's like, stay here, I'm going to go deal with it. And she follows. I think that kind of counts as a mini version of it myself. And I think that means it's 6 times total.
Which is mad. Like, I don't know. There's a lot about this script, as you say, that you look at and go, how did you not, like, surely you noticed that was a problem. But that's a real big one where I'm like, do you not, how does no one go, we're repeating ourselves a bit here?
Mm-hmm. It's because they had the premise and then didn't know what to do with it. It's that thing the Joker says in The Dark Knight. You know, it's a dog chasing a car. They've caught the car and now they don't know what to do with it. They had the idea and they were pleased with the idea. Cop in a like gruff sort of 80s, 90s action movie has his mom following him around. Okay. Let's go with that. Okay. There's room to make that function. What are we doing with it? Oh, we don't have any actual ideas of how to explore that or take advantage of that premise to create scenarios and jokes. The closest they come to an interesting one is the suicide, the jumper. That's the closest. Everything else is just echoes of that. You know, he's in a scene, she shows up, embarrasses him, they move on. Next scene. It's terrible. And then there's 2 points when the movie just stops to do emotional stuff, both of which are horribly written and really not good. I mean, the worst one being when she explains that his dad died and she never knew if he cried. Okay. All right. Fine. Yeah, fine. Okay. That's character work, apparently.
In terms of structure and stuff, Dan, you know that really famous screenwriting book, Save the Cat, the last book on screenwriting you'll ever need. You know that, yeah? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was written by the guy who wrote this movie.
Was it? Oh my God.
I've just gone, I wonder if they wrote anything else. And I clicked on Blake Snyder, and it says, through his Save the Cat trilogy of books on screenwriting and story structures, Snyder became one of the most popular writing mentors in the film industry.
Well, maybe it was a do as I say, not as I do situation.
Yeah, and fair play. Look, he passed by the looks of it quite young at 51. That obviously is a huge tragedy. And like you say, maybe,
and he's not the only writer on this film. There are 3 names attributed to the writing of this movie, so he might not be responsible for the stuff that doesn't work. We don't know.
And like you say, you can understand something and not potentially execute it yourself. And that book is undoubtedly like a very, very popular, well-known book. So fair play to him. Like he did know about it. It just unfortunately between him and the other 2 is not prevalent in this movie. Bless him.
Yeah, and I think in terms of the character stuff as well, that motivations are all mixed up, and I'm never really sure who I'm supposed to be rooting for scene to scene in this movie. That's another big problem I had. It's like, am I supposed to be agreeing with Stallone that he should be independent and his mum shouldn't be following around? Or am I supposed to be on 2D's side and be like, she's just trying to help, buddy. Like, she's your mum, give her a break. Because sometimes he reacts really strongly to small stuff, as well as, like, the big obvious violations of his privacy. You know.
Yeah, I don't think the fallout in the airport when they, you know, after making up, when they immediately fall out again, I don't think that fallout is justified at all.
No, exactly. And like that's what's really funny. Like it's like the movie doesn't know whose side I'm even on. So how am I supposed to invest if I don't know who I'm supposed to be on the side of, or the movie wants me to be on the side of, more importantly. There's a dream sequence in the movie as well, which is just the worst idea. It doesn't tell me anything about the character except for his mum embarrasses him, which is what every other scene in this movie is about. So I don't know why it was necessary. And it's not funny. And it's him in his police department, but then he's wearing a diaper all of a sudden. I don't know. It's terrible. Dreadful, dreadful scene. Don't know why it's in the movie. Let's see. Oh yeah, also the movie's confused about why he's on the rocks with Gwen, because in the beginning of the movie it's that he didn't call her and he doesn't consider her enough. But then later in the movie the problem is that he doesn't express his feelings. Pick a lane, movie. You're not giving these plots enough time to explore them anyway. So just pick one, because if you don't have the time to explore one of them, you definitely don't have the time to explore 2. Stop it. Bad movie. I did write down that I do enjoy that his mum wants him to do well at work, so she'll only tell him what she saw at the crime scene. That's nice. That's fine. And she gets to say the line, "Get in, sweetie, we're going to nail those turkeys," when she drives up to him in the car, and there's a scene where she has to drive him around. That's okay. I don't mind that scene where she's the car, driving the car while he's chasing the bad guy. That's fine. It's about as close to taking advantage of the premise as you get. Because even the famous "stop or my mum will shoot" scene doesn't even make sense. He stood next to her, she's holding the gun, and he yells, "Stop or my mum will shoot." She's next to you, buddy. Take the gun. She's not going to be able to hit the target, is she? You're next to her. Grab it and then fire. Why is she firing the gun? Why did they structure the scene that way when they shot it? Someone just didn't think it through. He should be several feet away or a few meters away, or still running towards her when he sees her lifting it up and pointing it at the guy, and he yells it at the guy, and it doesn't work. But he wasn't close enough to get to her anyway. It's dumb. This is so dumb. I did write that I like the moment when they both agree on that other cop being the asshole. When she's like, "We both think you're an asshole." That's a fine moment. But again, it's just Estelle Getty being delightful, as she always is. I thought it was a little weird to do a dig at Arnie, considering Arnie tricked him to do this movie with the "I'll be back" line. But hey ho. I do like.
I enjoyed that. That made me laugh a lot as well.
I do like that she got out of the car by using I thought it was clever that she gets one of the times he locks her in the car. She uses his police radio to get in touch with someone from the police station and be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, but you won't believe this. I just got stuck in the car," and they have to tell her how to get out. That's a reasonably clever way to get out of the situation. It made her seem smarter and more capable than the rest of the movie does, and I was on board with that. Anything else?
The weird breakfast scene. It's just not funny. It's just, he eats. That's the joke. She makes him a lot of food. I don't understand.
Yeah, I didn't understand that either. Oh, to be fair, I nearly laughed. They very close to letting out a noise. The third joke down was that she had a suitcase full of cans of pineapple slices, and he's like, "Mom, we got pineapple slices here in California," and she's like, "Not the same." That's fine. That's close to being a good joke that she dragged dozens of cans of pineapple slices across the country in a suitcase instead of just buying them there. That's we're in the vicinity of a functional joke at that point. Oh god, anything else? Let me see. No. Oh, in the end he is getting married to the lady and his mom's going home. Fine.
Yeah. And the bad guys get caught.
Yeah. But I wasn't invested in any of that because the movie doesn't attempt to invest me in any of that. That's just stuff that's happening. I think the biggest crime of this movie, actually, it's boring. That's the issue. But anyway, I was amazed
at how boring the movie was.
Yeah.
And this woman, this movie, sorry, there's a woman, washing I'm playing the movie through on silent to see if I can find anything to
talk
grasp
about.
at straws and talk about. And I'm currently at the moment where there is an 80-year-old woman on screen, well, maybe she's not 80, but an older woman on screen cleaning a gun in the sink like it's a glass, and then holding the gun to her son who's sleeping in bed. And the movie is so boring and forgettable. And that is what's so nuts to me. I wasn't on my phone. I wasn't cheating. It wasn't like I just wasn't watching the movie. It's just insanely boring.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's mad. Because on paper, it should be.
Yeah.
And, my thing with picking it is, even if it's bad, we'll get a kick out of it. And that's what hurts the most, Dan.
I agree. I mean, to just clarify, she's probably 68, 69 when she films this movie, but you're right. That should be funnier than it is. She's singing, "This is the way we wash our gun," and I'm like, okay, I sort of see what you're doing there. But it's oh man, and there's even a Richard Schiff doing his best with the work he has, with the material he has, gives his absolute best delivery of the line. You put a bottle brush down the barrel of a gun, he tries to make that funny, and even he can't. And it is execution, because I just think as an idea, someone's mum washing their police gun, their weapon for their work, that should be funny. that should be funny, but this movie is incapable of extracting humor from it. Like, that's really sad. All right. Look, overall thoughts. Nothing about this movie works. It potentially had it had some potential in its idea, but it never gets there. They don't go a bit like Small Soldiers, in that they never really find their feet in terms of what to do with it. Like, they never go hard enough with the action or hard enough with the comedy to make either premise work. So it just sits there in the middle, being absolutely dull as dishwater and repetitive and uninteresting. Do you have any more final thoughts before we do Triv, Chris?
Nope. Let's triv it up.
Let's triv it up. I'm gonna give you some trivia, and I'm still fighting this fly. I'm so sorry if anyone's been listening to the sound of this fly the whole episode. There's literally nothing I could do. I'll try to be prepared for the next podcast and have a fly swatter in here or something.
I genuinely have nothing to add, and I would also not recommend this movie, unfortunately. And I do what I've said is that is my headline thought. The most disappointing thing is that it's boring somehow.
Yeah. It's like I said right at the beginning. It's not even bad enough to be entertaining. It's not even that kind of bad. Where it's like, how did we get here? Like, this movie's insane because it's so bad. No, it's not even that. So, when the movie was originally pitched, Tutti Bomoschi, that's the mum's name, was supposed to be a much more mean and cruel character, similar to Anne Ramsey's performance in Throw Mama. Throw Mama from the Train, which is a movie that came out in 1987. Holy shit. Throw Mama from the Train. Jesus. I'm going to look that movie up in a minute. During the early stages of pre-production, they wanted B. Arthur from the Golden Girls to play Tutti. However, Arthur wanted to slow down her workload, as they were sort of in the last couple of seasons of Golden Girls at this point, and fitting a movie in between seasons was the opposite of slowing down. So, she passed. But when Estelle Getty found out about her Golden Girls co-star passing on the film, she expressed interest and liked the idea of working with Stallone. She'd been a huge fan of Rocky because, everyone was a huge fan of Rocky, and the idea of working with Stallone is, I get it, like, especially in this era, So she was cast, but the problem, and Stallone has talked about this on a few occasions. There was a quote. Do I not have the quote? Oh, that's frustrating. I thought I'd copied the quote into the notes. 1 second, Chris. I thought I had it right here. Well, I'm going to find it. Here it is. 1 second. Sorry, everyone. Oh, wait. There might be a happy ending to this after all. 1 second. I got him. I got the fly. He's dead.
Well done, I guess.
There you go. Stallone said, "Stop or My Mom Will Shoot" was supposed to be Throw Mama from the Train, with the mom as this really nasty piece of work. Instead, you hire the nicest woman in Hollywood, Estelle Getty. You wish she was your mother, and that's the end of that idea. So basically what he's saying was that, like, the script got rewritten because it made the character more sort of genteel, loving, and sweet motherly type. Because, of course, she had this character. The character, once you cast Estelle Getty, has to cause havoc, but has to have at least the best intentions in mind. And Stallone thinks the film would have been better with the mean version. I'm not sure that's the problem, if I'm being honest.
No, not at all.
So yeah. Ironically, though, she signed on to the movie and then found out it would involve guns. She was surprised to find out the Stallone movie would involve guns, Chris. And she said she didn't want to do the movie if it had guns in it, so the producers lied to her and said there would be no guns in the movie, which got her to sign the contract, and at that point she was signed on. A different time.
The movie, like, you can't just trick someone, and also, like, the movie's called Stop or My Mum Will Shoot.
Yeah, there's an element of they shouldn't have tricked her, and there's an element of did she not read the script. I think both parties are somewhat at fault here, but yeah, they absolutely should have tricked her. But, it makes sense that both of these cast members were tricked into doing this piece of shit. Different ways, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So even though she appears in the movie with red hair, many of the original posters for this movie showed her with white hair, so that the marketing resembled her popular character from the Golden Girls. Now, I've already made the thumbnail for this episode, Chris, and I've used one of the posters that has her red hair in it because I think that's deeply shitty behaviour. So, but if anyone wants to see it, if you Google the movie, the first poster that comes up, she's got white hair, which is not how she appears in the movie at all. When Tootie is showing pictures of her son to people on the plane, there's a black and white picture of a boy in a checkered shirt. That apparently is Stallone as a young boy. The same picture was used in Rocky from 1976, and it sits on Rocky's mirror. We'll do Rocky at some point. That's a great movie. Okay. At some point, we'll watch a good movie, Chris. When Tootie is making her arms deal, the dealer mentions that the same gun was used in Miami Vice. At that point, the camera, the movie cuts or pans towards actor Martin Ferrero, who played the famous Izzy Moreno character in Miami Vice. That's kind of funny, sure. So the movie got rated PG by the MPAA. And they were worried that this wouldn't seem like a cool enough Stallone movie to make some money. They were concerned. So they added the scene where Stallone's naked in the shower and she steps in. And you see do you see his butt? I can't remember. He's like half naked in the shower. Or naked in the shower. You don't see, it's not full frontal or anything, but there's some nudity. Adding that and one or two more swears and a couple of more explosions got the movie bumped up to a PG-13. The filmmakers thought this would imply the movie was edgier and bring in an older audience to the movie.
Yeah, it doesn't sound... We haven't got to box office yet, have we? But it doesn't... I don't suspect it did.
We'll see. I was a little surprised at the box office for this movie, but we'll come back to that. But apparently there was the other part of the concern was that Stallone had released a PG film a couple of years earlier called Oscar, and that had absolutely failed at the box office, and they were trying to avoid that repeating. So they added the nude scene, they added the some more swears, and they added a bit more explosions. I don't know. Whatever, I guess. It's a dumb choice, but I don't know. You can't make the movie any worse, so...
No, very true.
They didn't give a shit, so I don't know, why should I? Very quickly, if anyone wants to know more about the making of this movie, because I was not willing to do deep research on this one. I just wasn't. I didn't want to know about it. But there is apparently, it's episode 61 of the podcast, How Did This Get Made? Covers how this all occurred. I don't know in what detail, but if you're sort of itching for the usual depth that I try to get with some movies on this podcast when they've got an interesting backstory, if you think this is kind of an insane thing that this movie happened at all and you want to know how that occurred, I recommend checking out. I've not heard that specific episode because I didn't want to sort of get sucked into knowing more about this movie and having to then talk about it in the truth. So I've not heard that episode, but I can recommend that podcast. How Did This Get Made is very fun. So people who are interested should check that out. I always recommend that podcast, just in general. It's a good podcast. So, box office. So the budget, Chris, was $45 million. Now, before I tell you how much it made, I just want to observe a strange pattern from this season, Chris. Do you want to know how much Jack his budget was?
Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, I've definitely not retained that information.
45 million. Cable Guy? 47 million. The Flintstones, 46 million. The Small Soldiers, 40 million. Stop My Mom Will Shoot, 45 million. The only two movies we have reviewed so far that were not 40-something million were Home Alone and Muppets Christmas Carol, which were 18 and 12. So this is not the classic Rewind Review season, Chris. This is the low-budget Rewind Review season. We've done nothing. The highest budget movie we've reviewed so far this series, Chris, is The Flintstones at 46 million.
That is mad.
Now, that obviously will change when we get to the X-Men movies. Shocker. But it's not changing next week either. I'll tell you that. We'll come back to that.
Okay. Oh, God, that worries me.
It's a $28 million movie we're doing next week. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. I looked into this. So $45 million budget. You usually double it for marketing. We talk about this every week, but just for anyone new, generally speaking, no one ever really knows how much you spent on a marketing movie, and the studios like it that way. The closest you can get to estimating it is doubling the budget, the production budget. So if it was $45 million movie, you're looking at $90 million spent. but who knows? It could be lower, it could be higher. The movie made 70 million in the box office worldwide, which doesn't quite make it break even, but you've got to think VHS, syndication. You know, this movie was obviously on TV enough for Chris and I to both record it as kids. I reckon this broke even and even maybe made a little bit of money in the end. This is not a complete, like, if you tell me when you look at, like, let's just go back a tiny bit. Let's look. Any of the movies that we've done this year have been massive flops? No, pretty much everything has broken even or made money. Nothing we've done. Oh, there you go. From last season, Mallrats. 6 million to make it, 2 million return. That's a flop. They lost a lot of money. This, I mean, 70 million seems like a lot for this movie worldwide.
Yeah, but I just imagine no one involved was up for a sequel, were they?
No, it was. I don't have any trivia I wrote down about this, but a huge amount of the trivia was just about how savagely mauled this movie got. You know, I'll put it this way, Chris. On the Wikipedia page, there is only 1.5 paragraphs about the plot, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs about the critical reception.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
So this is like a famously terrible movie, you know, and everyone was, yeah. Yeah. Wait, what's this? Wait, what? Stallone stated, maybe one of the worst films in the entire solar system, including alien productions we've never seen. A flatworm could write a better script. In some countries, China, I believe, running the movie once a week on a government television station has lowered the birth rate to 0. Don't know what that means. He then added, if they ran it twice a week, I believe in 20 years, China would be extinct. That's the dumbest thing I've ever read. God bless you, Stallone. Anyway. He's not wrong. It's a terrible movie. Anyway.
Oh, that really got me.
Yeah. Oh, me too. But yeah, there's a massive section on the critical reception to this movie on the wiki page. Feel free to have a read through it. There's some funny stuff in there. Yeah. It's just, not good. Anyway, very quickly, Chris, it's time for Cars Exist. So, our lead character, Bob McBoringface's car, Bob McMain character's car, is a 1985 Ford LTD Crown Victoria. The van that they sell the guns out of is a 1983 Chevrolet Chevy van, and the truck that he bashes up into a plane with is a 1973 Peterbilt 289. And I'll tell you something interesting, Chris. Or maybe not interesting. You know how sometimes I use the Internet Movie Car Database to find out information about the cars? Well, I discovered this week, Chris, that the Internet Movie Plane Database also exists.
That is very exciting.
And it doesn't quite work like the car database, where you click on a movie and there's a list of all the cars that are in it, and then if you click on that car, you get information about it. Instead, it's like, if you go to a movie, it has its own, like, almost Wikipedia page. It's structured like a Wikipedia page, and then there's paragraphs about all the planes that have appeared in the movie. I just thought this was delightful. Now, there's not a huge amount to do about this one, because this isn't like a plane-heavy movie. But if we ever get to Top Gun, I think the Internet Movie Plane Database is going to be a delightful resource for me there. But the plane in this movie, the big plane that he very boringly crashes into to make it stop going, is the Fairchild C119G flying box car. But it also tells me, Chris, its registration number, which is N3935. And apparently it was built in 1953. Planes exist, everyone.
Good to know, man. Yeah. Clear for takeoff.
Very good. Exits are here, and here. Right, let's get out of here. So next week, I'm just going to.
Can I just say I don't want to put you under pressure. You've made a decision. You've referenced it now, so you're sticking with your decision.
I am.
Can I tell you what I would do in your shoes?
Go on.
We've got X-Men, we've got X2, we've got Muppet. Because last week you were saying, what do you do? And like with this, I think it's like, you said, do you just make it the bad season or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
And we've done Muppets Christmas Carol, we've done Home Alone, which is considered a classic. We're doing X-Men, we're doing X2. It isn't a season full of stinkers. It isn't that. So I feel like if I'm in your shoes, I've got to pick a good movie now. I've got to have another decent movie in this. Mm-hmm. Is that what you've done, or are you going, let's burn it to the ground?
Can I just point everyone to the desperation, the pleading in Chris's voice. He doesn't want to do another terrible movie, and I do not blame him.
Yeah, but you've already named a figure, so you can't pivot now. Your movie is chosen, so
yes,
maybe it's bleeding, but I know you're made up. So where, Dan, are we going next?
Next week, Chris, we are watching. I'll very quickly say there were 2 movies I nearly chose, and what I decided to do was like a really solid action movie, because we just had a really bad action movie, right? And I'd love a good suspenseful, sort of like tension-filled action movie, and this has very much been the 90s season. That is true. We have our ratio from 1990 to 1998 has been our window for this. No movie we've done so far has been outside of that window, Chris. 0. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, we'll keep that, but we'll go action. And there were 2 movies that came to mind. I'll tell you the first one, the one I did not choose, because I think that's riskier. Face Off. I love that movie, but it's goofy as hell.
Yeah.
It's goofy as hell, and I wonder if adult me will not enjoy the goofy as hellness. We'll come back to that movie though. I promise we're coming back to that one, because I do enjoy that movie. But in the end, Chris, I went for the absolute classic. Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock. We are watching Speed. I went with a good movie. I think that's a safe choice. I think that's a good movie. I think that's going to be a good movie. I think I did it. I think I cracked the code.
Yeah, that's a solid.
Did you see this one when you were younger?
Saw it when I was younger. I've seen it. I've seen it recently. I've seen it in this. I'm pretty sure I've seen that movie while we were doing Rewind reviews, and really? I didn't even wait. I didn't even wait to pick it. I just had you know what? I fancy watching Speed. Let's watch Speed, and we watched Speed.
It's a great movie.
So
yeah. Now I've not seen this. I've not seen this in quite some time, but I'm very confident it's a good film.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's my memory. I've never watched it critically, and even when I watched it then, it wasn't critically. It was just to, watch it.
So are you relieved, Chris? You relieved I've chosen a good movie? You happy with this choice?
Yeah, I think it's definitely, it's not because like I say, I think you whether you did it for the exact logic I laid out, I think I think it isn't. You couldn't burn the whole series to the ground because, Muppets Christmas Carol and X2 exist. So I think you've done the right thing in picking a movie that is still 90s, still very classic Rewind reviews, but more of a solid bet. So the series is a little more even, perhaps.
I think so. And I was like, because originally, so last week, I'll tell you what I was thinking last week, was I was either going to go, depending on what you were choosing, I was either going to go with like an action movie like Speed or Face Off, or my other option was to go back to the 30s and pick Wizard of Oz. I thought it'd be fun to do something with like Wizard of Oz. But again, that felt risky because some movies from that era, suffer from time. And I just...
Yeah, also, I'd have been like, dude, if you're going to pick Wizard of Oz this season...
Yeah, exactly.
Why not? Yeah. Why not pick it at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, 100%. So, yeah, if we were going to do Wizard of Oz, we'd have picked it for instead of the cable guy, and it would have lined up with Wicked.
Yeah, Beginning of this. Yeah, sorry, beginning of the season. That's what I meant. So to land with Wicked. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which I saw and very much enjoyed.
Which, by the way, I think I said this on MBS. I can't remember whether I did. Just completely like, sometimes you're aware that something is becoming a huge cultural thing, but it's just passing you by. Like you just don't have any interest in it, particularly yourself. So it's just literally like
You should see it.
Wash it over you. That's what I'm experiencing right now.
You honestly just go see it. Take the family. Do it as a Christmas thing. A lot of you got. Honestly, it's brilliant. It's really, really good. And you don't have to have it. You don't have to have any knowledge. In fact, it will actually help because I find Wicked clashes with the Wizard of Oz movie a little, particularly the second act. But that's not in this movie, anyways. But it feels like a complete film. It's delightful. The music's great. The performance is great.
And just to clarify, that's not me saying I think it's going to be bad. No. That's just me saying,
No, I fully understood that. But what I'm saying is, don't let it pass you by. It's really good.
Yeah, but if I'm, the movie. If I'm seeing a movie this holidays with the family, Dan, you know what that movie is. You know what I'm going to the cinema to see.
It better not be Mufasa.
Nope. But it is. It has got a talking animal in it.
What the fuck movie am I? If I'm forgetting a movie that's coming out?
Yeah, you are. You're definitely forgetting about a movie.
What movie is coming out this Christmas?
This Christmas comes out Christmas Eve. Talking animal is the lead. Everyone else is human. I'm talking about that sweet, sweet Robbie Williams biopic.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well. Yeah. No, thank you.
No one, Dan, no one wants to go with me to see that movie.
No, I don't want to see it either. I'm not even sure I'll bother once it's on VOD.
People are saying it's amazing, but anyway.
No, when you said talking animal, I was like, Sonic? But I was like, no, that's out now.
Oh, you still there?
Yeah, can you not hear me? One sec, Chris, he's lost me. Oh, Chris has lost me. It's a tragedy, everyone. One sec. One sec, buddy. There it goes. That better? I was thinking you were talking about Sonic. But anyway, that is everything for this week. Dear Lord. If you have any thoughts, and I pray to God you don't, on Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, mail at nothingbutstatic, or you can head over to the YouTube channel, youtube.co.uk or youtube.com/nothingbutstaticuk. Patreon if you want to support us financially, although I wouldn't blame you for not wanting to do that after we covered this movie. But it's patreon.com/nothingbutstatic. For as little as $1 a month, you can hear us talk about a good movie, Speed, right now. And following Speed, we're going to be covering the X-Men trilogy. I'm very excited about that. And for those who aren't aware, when we come back next year, our season lines up with the current, at least, scheduled release date for that new Jurassic Park movie. So I think next year we're going to finally pull the trigger on the original Jurassic Park trilogy. So that's exciting. So there's good stuff to come. But yeah, following Speed, we're going to do the X-Men, the original 3, the 2000s ones. And I think, is there anything else I need to say? No, screw it. This movie's dreadful. Let's get out of here. Hand over to Chris to end this.
I love the way I assume you cut it. Like, we just had a mic, like error. And Dan is so done. He didn't even check whether I could hear him again. Like, it cut back in as you were just doing the outro.
Yeah. I genuinely, I was like, I think I'm going to leave it in because it was me going, I think I've lost Chris, everyone. So I think I'll just leave it in. And because also, I do not want to spend a minute more editing this episode than I need to either, for the same reasons. I'm so done. So, all right, Chris, bring us home.
My name's Chris Billingham.
My name's Dan Deal.
And this review has been rewound.